My brother Dennis, his best friend Jerry, and I had planned a weekend getaway for some camping and fishing in Tennessee. We had all been planning this trip for over 3 months now, and finally, we all decided to take this trip just before the Halloween weekend. We decided to take a road trip up from Atlanta to our destination. Jerry was in charge of getting us the place to stay. He had rented out a cabin and was pretty pumped up about the supposedly amazing place that it was. We were just as stoked, but the idea arose that as we were on the road, we were pretty sure we might be lost. Jerry was going over the directions to the cabin just after we had crossed into Chattanooga. Jerry ran his finger on the route that we were presently driving on and had found the town we were supposed to go to. Problem was, there were no main streets heading into it. None at all.
How the hell did you come across this cabin you rented? We can't even find it on the map,
I let out, getting a bit frustrated at the lack of having an actual way. Dennis pulled out his cell phone and typed the address onto Google Maps to see if something would come up. And still, nothing. Nothing came up in a search either.
I'm not picking up anything,
he said, putting his phone away and focusing up on the road ahead.
There's a gas station coming up on the right here. Pull up in there. Let's see if we can get someone to show us the way or something.
In just a few minutes, we started to pull into this vintage gas station that looked like it was actually from the 1970s. Very bizarre, but there had been weirder places, so we didn't put much stock into it and just drove in towards the filling port. Dennis got out of the truck and walked into the station, aiming his cell phone in the air hoping for a better signal. Still, no luck.
Let me go check on directions since I'm not getting a good signal in these backwoods.
As I was filling up the tank, I could see Jerry rummaging through his duffel bag looking for something in there and obviously not finding it.
Where the hell did I put my snacks?
He let out after going at it for a while and finding nothing, disgruntled. I watched him as he jumped out of the truck and started to run in, yelling,
"Hold on, man! I need to restock on some snacks!"
I was done filling up the tank and Dennis pulled out the money to pay for the gas. He went in to pay up the money to the old man behind the counter, and while in doing so, he showed the old man the map to ask for directions.
I just want to ask if you could help me and my brother find this road that leads to this town here.
The tall old man had some crazy eyes, as if he was from one of those old creepy movies from the 80s. Definitely gave me a creepy feeling paired with the old-timey gas station too. The old man slammed his hand down on the counter and flipped the map my way, pointing his greasy hand towards the road.
I can see you lads aren't from these parts, huh? You boys need to turn around and head to the main road, then make a ride over on Simmons Lane,
he told us with a strange look in his eyes and a mysterious smile in his voice. By that time, Jerry had also gathered all the stuff that he wanted and was just listening to the directions of the old man too. They took back the map and thanked the old man. As they began walking away, the old man yelled out to them, stopping them in their tracks.
"Hey! Aren't you forgetting something?"
They turned around to see what the old man was talking about, only to see him pointing at the bag of snacks that Jerry had just bought and had left on the counter. Jerry walked over and grabbed his bags of chips and candy, thanking the old man once again. The old man just kept silently staring at them with his same creepy look on his face. Meanwhile, Dennis was still having trouble connecting with the modern world. He was looking down at his phone and still seeing no signal there. It was making him really frustrated and antsy, so much so that he once again started yelling at Jerry for his choice of location.
Why the hell would you pick a place this far out? It's like in the middle of nowhere, Jerry.
Jerry paid him no mind as he was busy walking backwards, staring back at the old man as he watched him lick his fingers and wave at him. He was so perturbed by the old man, he took a misstep and fell backwards into a dirty puddle in the parking lot. We all laughed when Jerry fell in the puddle, dropping his bag of candy onto the ground on his way down. It was a common sight for us to see on a regular. Jerry and his misadventures, as we had grown to call many of the small incidents that he had been involved with on the daily. It was honestly hilarious how trouble just always seemed to find him, no matter what. I walked over to him and pulled him up from the ground, shaking my head fondly at him. You are undoubtedly one of the clumsiest guys I have ever known, man. Damn, Jerry. Now change them clothes before you get back in my truck. Dennis came up to us laughing at Jerry's misery too and handed him the duffel bag while pointing towards the building restroom.
Hurry up and go change before we get back on the road.
He said, giving him a little shove, and Jerry headed towards the bathroom while Dennis and I turned to go back to the truck, shaking our heads in amusement. Jerry, on the other hand, wasn't faring too well. He had walked into the smelly restroom only to see 2 bathroom stalls. To top it off, the place smelled rotten and of decay, as if something had died in there. Considering the fact that we were in the middle of the woods, that might not be very far off the mark anyway. So he just chalked it up to probably an animal that had died nearby or something, and didn't pay much attention. He walked into the nearest stall and began changing. As he was putting on his shoes, he felt like he had just stepped on something soft. He looked down only to let out a shocked whelp at what he saw. He was actually standing on a human hand. A hand that belonged to someone in the next stall. Someone was trying to get handsy in there, he thought, now more angered than shocked.
Yo!
He shouted at the man in the other stall.
What the hell, man? What do you think you're doing, creep?
He fixed his clothes, shoving his shirt into his pants, and ran out of the stall to confront the man in the other stall.
Bring your butt out here, you freak! I'll beat your head in. Bring your butt out here, now!
There was no response from the other man. He didn't even let out a peep, let alone an apology or even an excuse for his disgusting behavior. Frustrated and angry, Jerry kicked the door, breaking the lock in the process, and immediately wished he hadn't. There was definitely a man in there, but he wasn't doing anything creepy at all. He wasn't doing much of anything at all. The man was just lying there, with his shirt torn off and his body half gutted. He was fully covered in blood, and so was the whole bathroom stall floor. It was like a scene from one of those true crime series. Utterly revolting. Jerry let out a scream at seeing the nauseating sight, and quickly grabbed his duffel bag, roughly shoving his stuff inside and racing out of the bathroom directly to the truck. Fortunately for him, Dennis and I were already there, watching him bewildered at his panicking and rushing. He practically jumped into the truck, all the while screaming at us to move.
Stop the damn truck up! Come on! Come on, move it now!
Bemused, we followed his screaming orders and started up the truck, feeling the urgency that he was displaying ourselves too. When we pulled out of the gas station, it looked as if we were in a frantic race, rushing to get to the finish line or something. I looked back at Jerry to ask him what all the rush was for, but saw nothing but fear in his eyes. It was as if he had seen an awful nightmare and was still trapped there, being just physically here with us. It was a look that I had never seen before. He didn't reply to any of our inquiries about what was wrong, so we left him to it, waiting for him to get out of his trance and tell us the issue or something when he was ready. For the next 30 minutes, everyone in the truck stayed quiet, focusing on the road ahead and just in our own thoughts until we finally came to our destination, the road to the town where we were supposed to be. Dennis leaned up from his seat, pointing towards it and shouted excitedly,
Look! That's the road there! Simmons Lane! Turn here!
I looked out the window and noticed the road looked like it had never been driven on before. It had been taken over with overgrown grass and bushes and low-hanging tree branches on all sides. I don't know about this, fellas. I think we should just head back onto the main route. Dennis looked over at me and laughed at my suggestion, finding it absurd.
Come on, man! We've been planning this for months now. You can't just turn back now. What, are you getting cold feet now, man?
Jerry leaned up to the front from his seat in the back, trying to get our attention.
I got something real bad to tell you guys.
We, however, paid it no mind. Dennis and I were arguing back and forth about what to do until Jerry actually broke down and started crying, as if he was a toddler who just got his toys snatched. We both turned back to look at him, beyond confused at his reaction. Thinking that he was just being dramatic about going to the cabin, I gave in. I looked over at my brother and let out a resigned sigh.
All right,
All right already, fellas. You guys are some damn brats. I started up the car again that I had turned off while we were having our argument and started off on the unused road. As we were making our way down the road, we were noticing that we were driving down the cornfields. Nothing but miles and miles of cornfields. Getting tired of the long road and feeling a bit hungry, I started looking for something to munch on. As I was pulling out the candy bar from the armrest, a man suddenly ran out in the road, causing us to swerve and into the cornfields in surprise. Once we stopped, we all got out of the truck, still in shock, to check up on the man and the truck. We were shocked beyond belief when Dennis noticed that the truck tires were blown out. We all ran back into the road and saw that the man was lying on the ground, covered in blood, and with only his pants on, no shirt and no shoes anywhere in sight. The man looked up at us, shaking and trying to reach out to us with his hands.
Please, get out of here while you can. Save yourselves before it's too late for you, too.
Just as he was done saying that, the man died, right in front of us, as we were left speechless. Jerry walked over to the man, and then began to yell at us.
This is what I was trying to tell you guys,
he started.
I found a guy's body back at the gas station, in the bathroom stall. It was all torn apart.
We were left even more shocked at his revelation. Dennis got out of his stupor and walked over to him, hitting Jerry across the head.
What the hell were you thinking?
He shouted at him, berating him about his late reveal.
You could have said something back there that could have avoided all of this.
Jerry put his hat back on, scratching the back of his neck in frustration.
I'm sorry, man. I was just so scared. I didn't know what to do.
As they were hashing it out, I looked around and spotted a farmhouse just across the cornfield.
Look, guys, there's a place. Maybe we can find help there.
Dennis rushed back to the truck and pulled out a blanket from the back. We wrapped the body up in the blanket till we could return to it with help. Later on, we made it to the farmhouse and noticed a truck in the barn and a radio playing near the clothesline out front. We walked over to the radio and heard the emergency announcement. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Please remain indoors or find cover until further notice. Repeat, please remain indoors until further notice. We all looked at each other stunned, as we could hear the emergency alarm suddenly blaring from miles away. So it really wasn't just a drill. Something was really going on. We all ran over to the door, banging on it until an old man finally opened it.
Damn you lads. Hold your horses, fools. Reckon I heard you the first time.
He moved aside, giving us the way, and we all walked in, staring all around us in shock as Dennis almost walked right into a dead cow carcass on the floor. The old man approached me and then walked us to the living room, asking us what we were doing there. We told him everything from the start of the trip to how we ended up here. We got the news about a chemical plant having an explosion and setting off deadly fumes, so now we need shelter here, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I heard,
he said, giving us a smile in return. The old man allowed us to stay there until the emergency had passed, although I wasn't sure how happy I was about that. On one hand, I was relieved that we had a place to take shelter, but on the other hand, the place and the old man who owned it both gave me a weird feeling in the pit of my stomach. And considering the fact that the first thing I had seen upon entering it was a butchered cow, wasn't helping my nerves either. The old man explained to us he was in the midst of having a get-together too. He told us that he had some friends gathering for the lunch as well as dinner, and now in the light of the recent curfew situation, he wasn't sure how many of his friends were going to show up and how long their get-together would last. As he was saying it, there was another knock on the door. He went ahead and opened it to reveal two other men, just as old and as old-fashioned as he was. One of those men just happened to be the old man we had seen at the gas station. Jerry got really uncomfortable upon seeing the man, and so did I when he showed off all of his teeth and his creepy smile. Apparently, they were the friends invited over for food, the fresh cow that had been slaughtered. All of them got busy preparing food while we sat together wondering and whispering about what the hell was going on and just what we were supposed to do next. I told the others about how uneasy I was feeling about this place and the people, and apparently they were feeling the same discomfort as I. All three men were sure creepy with their voices, their stares, and their smirks. We were all just waiting for another declaration to come and allow everyone to get out of the houses and out into the open. We couldn't wait to get the hell out of there. Soon enough, it was time to eat. They invited us all to eat with them, so we obliged. And it was definitely an interesting experience, to say the least. We were all sitting at the table, watching everyone eat as if they had been starving and hadn't actually eaten a meal in days. Just Dennis and I were the only ones at the table who were not eating, instead just looking at the others, going at it like hungry animals. Our host looked over at us as Dennis stood up and walked over to the window, looking out and wondering out loud.
Hey guys, do you notice that there's no farm animals or pigs or anything anywhere on the property?
As if coming to a sudden realization, Dennis turned around, only to witness his best friend being stabbed repeatedly by the old man and the guy from the gas station, holding up Jerry's head with that signature smirk on his face. We both let out a scream at the sudden bloodbath erupting on the dinner table. I scrambled away from it with my chair letting out a screech just as loud as my scream. The man next to me lunged for me, but I dodged his outstretched hand and got away from them. I made a run for the living room, finding myself racing down the hallway. I looked back and saw the man from the gas station heading for Danny next, while the old man of the house started chasing me with a chainsaw in his hand. I rushed away and stepped outside the house, the frigid air biting me. But I didn't have time to focus on the sudden chilly air or the earlier warning about venturing outside. As soon as I stepped out, I stepped into a bear trap, falling down and almost severing my leg in half in the process. I watched the man standing over me, laughing as he began to start up his chainsaw. I looked up at him with fear in my eyes and voice as I begged him to let me go.
Please, stop, I beg you. I won't say anything if you let me go. Please!
My begging had no effect on him at all. He looked down at me and smiled, showing his rotten, yellow teeth.
We already had lunch, but you'll do for tonight's dinner.